in the county schools is restricted to non-white individuals who hold certain views about social justice. Joining us now is Autry Pruitt, Chief Executive Officer of New Journey Political Action Committee. Autry, welcome and thank you so much for your time today. I want to start off by talking about critical race theory. Some critics say that it makes sweeping claims about racial groups and thus violates civil rights. I want to get your thoughts on that, and also why there seems to be a push right now to teach critical race theory in our schools.
Well, you're correct. That's what critical race theory is. Basically, it's the idea that the whole country, from its founding up until present, is decided based upon pigmentation, and that the top of the pigmentation scale is white, everybody else is at the bottom. And so what you need to do is you need to teach that everything was a part of its racist founding. What we have to stay on guard about is this: even as we begin to push back in legislatures, etc., about critical race theory, what we have to stand guard about is this: the publishers that originally put the criteria and documents and textbooks together, which support critical race theory, are the same publishers that are now being tasked with developing the new textbooks, programs, etc., that are not supposed to be aligned with critical race theory. As we begin to review these various publishers and books, what we are finding is that they're using CRT still, but just couched in different language. We have to be on guard about that. It's not enough just to pass an anti-CRT bill or to come out against CRT. What you as parents need to do is develop and make sure in your school districts, and make sure with your legislatures, but develop a criteria by which every textbook must pass through a parent committee. And that parent committee must be composed of parents who are currently in the school district. And by a 2/3 vote, that parent committee needs to pass the textbook that's going to be used in the classroom. That's the real way to solve the CRT problem. Yes, there's a lot of pushback. And to answer the second part of your question, it exists right now because those that are on the social left are on the run. They want to push back against Christianity. They want to push back against any type of Christian-based faith, right? They want to push back against that because they don't believe that that is the founding. They don't believe that's the cause. They don't believe that is an equitable stance to be, right? Religion is not an equitable stance where you should be. So they want to push back against that. But for us, we must be on guard, because what's happening is, even though, like DeSantis, for example, I'm here in Florida, great governor, even though he's passed and pushed back against CRT, the bureaucracy that's administrating it is still using CRT philosophies for their new textbooks.
Well, Autry, I want to ask you this question. How can we as brothers and sisters in Christ, how should we as Christians respond to critical race theory? What should we do?
Well, I think there's two things that we can do. The first thing is very functional, very practical. At the end of the day, even in the public school system, guess what? As brothers and sisters in Christ, whether you're Catholic, Baptist, Pentecostal, evangelical, whatever you may be, there are more of you than there are of them. I know Hollywood doesn't want to say it, because within the Hollywood mainframe, they don't want to believe that. Sports doesn't want to believe it. They don't want to say it. But guess what? There are. So if you begin to use your local forums, your church forums, to band together and run people from your church, from your congregations for school board, not with a religious agenda per se, but with a family agenda, that's the first thing you can do. And then the second thing you can do is talk about it in your church communities, right? So when you're dealing a lot with Sunday school, when you're dealing with your board of trustee meetings, you need to have on the agenda some local items that are present in the community. I'm not talking about Biden or Trump or Republicans or Democrats, but talking about how locally the critical race theory goes against Christian teachings. And what we need to do is not necessarily elect people that are going to push Christian teachings in the school, but certainly elect people that are not going to be adverse to those who are of a Christian faith being the heads of curriculum. Because if you're of a Christian faith, you're not pushing a CRT agenda at all.
Yeah. Autry, we have probably about 20 seconds left, not a lot of time, but quickly, how do you see this all playing out?
What's going to happen is this. Individuals are going to end up either changing the school boards, or we're going to end up with a two-tiered system. You're going to have education for everybody else that's not in CRT, and education for those in CRT. And CRT will be the poor. CRT will be taught to those who don't have a leg up, because Apple, Twitter, etc., they're not hiring people that are being taught this garbage. They're hiring people that are being taught reading, math, and arithmetic. That's what's going to play out unless we fight back in the local school board communities.
Autry, we're going to leave it right there. Thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. Autry Pruitt, Chief Executive Officer of New Journey PAC. Thank you again.
Thank you.